the headless bullet bill. Holy crap. All right. Welcome to episode 125 of the Zenspath Entertainment Network Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers. And joining me once again, we have Steven.
Hello.
He's back from staring at the sun, which was hiding, playing peekaboo with an astronomical, phenomenon. And then Chris joining us again from last week.
I watched the eclipse online. That was enough for now.
I took good photos of it. I've forgotten to get a pair of the glasses, and then one of my coworkers brought it was an ND filter cap for a telescope, but didn't have a telescope. So I was like, "Ooh, give me that!" And I put it on the end of my DSLR and was taking really good photos, like zooming in and looking at it.
Oh, nice.
I can still see, so I don't think it caused any permanent damage. So it worked out well.
Jeremy, you're staring at the wall.
Hold on. So anyway,
We're over here.
So let's jump into what we've been up to, because we have been apart for a little while. Everyone's been kind of running around. And once again, last week, Chris and I did our extra quarter episode talking about the biggest leaps between games in a series. That's a lot of fun to listen to or watch. So feel free to go check that out.
It was a fun one.
I liked it. I'm looking forward to trying doing some more of those with you. Brent wants to join us on a couple of the ones about like particular artists or art styles.
Oh,
So it'd be like my two really good artist friends joining together, and I'm just going to be like, yay, I'm here just to moderate. I don't know.
oh, come on! You know about comic books,
I do, but I'm going to keep bringing up Alex Ross or Jim Lee.
and that's fine.
Yeah, I love those. But Steven, what about you? What have you been up to on your travels to stare at the sun?
Well, we did what was called a turn and burn. So we went to visit my brother-in-law, my wife's brother,
Mhm.
and we drove 12 plus hours to go all the way to Ohio and
Oh, wow.
back over 3 days. And we basically got to experience a real-life day-night cycle or Majora's Mask event where we basically kind of got to see when the moon is mooning the sun, so you can kind of take the glasses off and you're sitting there and it's only 3 p.m. and you're like, it's dark. Everybody's confused. All the animals think it's time to go to bed. And then
It's a missed
literally 4 minutes
opportunity.
later, they're like, wait, just kidding. What's going on? Everybody's confused. Everybody goes back out and continues their day. And you
Missed
just saw a neat little phenomenon in real life. And now you have to wait until 2045 for it to happen again.
It'll be coming over my area at that point. But it's a missed opportunity. Someone should have broke out a ocarina just to play the Song of Time.
We'd all be doomed.
There's also that you can play the Total Eclipse of the Heart song from Bonnie Tyler, so because you can match it up because it matches the amount of runtime of the eclipses.
Oh, wow.
I saw Black Hole Sun trending on Twitter.
Yeah, I think Brent, Insomniac over on Discord, sent me a picture saying he didn't know if it was a coincidence or not. But when we came back in, I think Spotify was playing that at the same time. And I was like, that is phenomenal. I hope that was on purpose.
Pretty sure it must have been.
Yeah.
Before I left for it, though, because it was probably the most important Tetris 99 event ever, I had to make sure to get my Princess Peach Showtime theme.
Wait, you like Peach stuff? I wouldn't have known. Yeah, shocking.
Maybe a little bit. Made sure to get that. So, over the last few days, always made time for Helldivers since they were updating, adding stuff. Chase and I actually tried a new mode yesterday. We had to search for it.
Ooh.
But it was we'll talk about it probably tonight, but it was kind of like a what's that mode called? But basically where you're I'm kind of forgetting the mode now. But you're basically tower defense. So it's a tower defense mode. So we're closing all the doors, you're setting up minefields and turrets and stuff, and you're trying to keep the bugs in this case out of these 3 doors, because if they get to the generators before all 8 rockets have launched, you've lost. And it was a lot of fun because it was something different.
Oh.
You didn't have to do any searching around a planet. There was no things to find. it was just all about keeping everybody out of the doors and keeping everybody off the gates. So it was really fun and it was strategic. So I hope they put more of those modes in there. So we got to search those out again.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to try that.
It was a lot of fun because towards the end we just looked for it to try it out. Lastly, we did do the I did read up on the new Vampire Survivors mode that they're doing. It would be too obvious for them to do Castlevania, so obviously they're going to do Contra. And as
That was
their
out of the blue.
As their overview says, the president's cousin's sister's dog has been kidnapped by Red Falcon. Are you bad enough to come to the rescue?
I like that.
That's great.
So this is adding like 11 new characters, 20 new weapons, more stages, more bonus stuff. It's just going to be like a brand new game again.
God, I can't. I'm still not even done with the last couple of things they've added to this. It's ridiculous.
So there's going to be days where democracy is going to take a back seat to surviving vampires again. But I can't wait till May 9th for that. So it's going to be
Didn't they add multiplayer to that one?
Yeah, it's 4-player multiplayer.
Oh, we need to try that.
Doesn't come to PlayStation until the summer, but it's on Switch and Xbox still. So at least there's that.
I have it on Steam, so.
But it's definitely not cross-play because they've. I don't think it can handle each other's craziness.
I think I do have it on Xbox because that was one of the Xbox Live core games or whatever that was included. I just don't normally play it on there because all of my progress was on my Steam Deck, you know.
Yeah.
That's where that game really took off for me, where it's like, oh, I can play this on the go. I'm just gonna wear out this analog stick now.
But yeah, I'm all for all these little indie games getting more of the legacy content from the forgotten IPs from the bigger companies. I like
right.
It makes sense that Castlevania wouldn't be on there though, because you're not supposed to have vampires in Vampire Survivors. They're not letting go of that joke.
Yeah, that other game from Flint Rock Studio, V Rising, is getting Castlevania content where you can beat up and destroy Simon Belmont, but I just don't know what kind of game that is. It's a little confusing.
I have to see on that one. So, Chris, what about you? What have you been up to?
Not much, just resting mostly, but I got back into Sonic Origins. I've decided to get every single 100% on all of those Sonic games, so that's been fun to do. And aside from that, I also went back to Unicorn Overlord. The game is beautiful, but incredibly difficult because I stunk at Ogre Battle, so I stink at Unicorn Overlord. But at least the game over screens are nice.
As long as you get pretty ones of those, it's great.
Death is but a hunter, Chris.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
And we still need to play more of that.
Fair enough. So I have finally taken the dive. Well, my kids helped with that because I ended up finding out earlier last week that Jeremy Jr. went and bought me the basic start set for Final Fantasy XIV on Xbox. So I can jump into that with a couple of the expansions and give it a go. So I've been back into an MMO once again. And the game is actually a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. I've been playing with both the boys because they are absolutely excited to have me running around trying to show me stuff. Jeremy even went and got me a little turtle partner that follows me around. It's adorable and I love it. But I ended up naming my character Zen, and then my last name is Spath, S-P-A-T-H. That's a new way of putting
Mr.
Zenspath. Yeah. I wanted to have Zenspath, but I didn't want to be obvious. I was like, Zenspath. There we go. That's great. So that's my new alter ego. But I'm liking it. It plays well with the controller. I ended up getting a wireless keyboard just so I could type a little bit easier for chat. But I've been just making the boys hop onto Discord because that's been convenient. Sure. Apparently, Jeremy just messaged me on Discord, says something about Final Fantasy XIV, so I don't know if he's in the kitchen listening right now. He's always watching.
Are you done yet? You done yet? Can we play? You done yet? You done yet?
Always watching.
The only downside I've had with the game, and this is a weird Xbox related thing. They have a parental like profanity filter you can turn off on Final Fantasy XIV. I was like, cool. I'm in my 40s. I think I can handle some bad words. But Xbox has one built in you can't turn off that is so over the top and stupid. It will edit out, like, this is worse than I've seen Nintendo ones, where it will edit out groups of letters that aren't even in the same word if it could possibly do something. So if I try and say, like, we need to get past something, ass will be question marks, the ASS. Or I
Don't say free company.
Yeah, free company gets you banned. I haven't seen that one yet. What was it? The dumbest one. Something I had written out. One of the words ended with an S, and the next one started with a T and a D. Like it somehow. I think I'd written like past something. It blocked out STD, and like it wasn't even one word, and it had the question marks, and I was like, "What is going on?" Come to find out, it's just Xbox editing out their profanity filter and not allowing anything to change with it. They really need to fix that, because people are getting in trouble for just trying to chat or ask about in-game functions, like you said about the companies and all that. Boy, this is nuts. And it shows up unedited for everybody else, so it's only what I'm seeing. So I could say it, and everyone else still has to deal with it. So
you're right. Basically speaking Simlish.
Yeah, pretty much. But it even affects, and this is what sucks, it affects NPCs that are trying to tell you mission data, like mission information. It will edit what they're saying in the middle of it. So you're kind of going like trying to guess. This is like the new version of Wordle, I guess. I'm trying to figure out what letters go there and what the meaning is.
Thou shalt not pee.
Yeah, I've never seen the censorship that bad before. And I'm like, Microsoft, why? Like, what the crap?
That is such a strange thing to be locked out of. Very weird.
It is. And like, it's not like I'm not paying for this. I have to pay a monthly fee for this, and I can only play it on Xbox because of that.
And you got two currencies to deal with.
No kidding. I got to figure that shit out. Not happy about that part. The game has been fun, and I like playing with the kids, so that's at least good. It looks and plays well on the Xbox, and I like being able to just sit on the couch and play it where I'm comfortable, so I'm not just sitting here at my desk the whole time. Because that's one of the only things for Helldivers 2 that's been a bit of an issue, is just sitting here at my desk. I don't like doing that, but it has been hilarious, accidentally over and over killing Chase. Sorry, I have a massive taser, and it just goes.
Well, good to hear that keeps happening.
Yeah, it's been almost entertaining, where I'll shoot at one guy, and you can follow as it traces along. And you just see Chase go poof. Oh, my bad.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
It's fine. They've got loads of soldiers.
Yeah, we'll just keep bringing down the clones. The last thing I wanted to talk about is I finally started, and we ended up finishing because we enjoyed it so much, the Fallout series on Amazon Prime. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say this has been probably one of the best video game to movie or TV show adaptations I've ever seen. Like, I like The Last of Us, but this feels even more grounded in that world because it's canon.
Huh.
It takes place timeline wise. It's later than every other game, so it references other games, other sections of the country.
That's the safest thing to do. Take place after everything.
Right. So you can have things that, and people have already been like, oh, well, it seems like it's writing out New Vegas. And they're like, no, it doesn't write out New Vegas. It's all perfectly there. I mean, it's fine. But it had a good mystery all throughout it. The three main characters you're following in the show all feel like three different ways you can play Fallout. So you've got the naive, trying to be diplomatic and talk your way through stuff with Lucy. You've got the ghoul, which is just I'm going to go around with my dog companion and a whole buttload of guns and just shoot everything. And then you've got Maximus, which was the guy that's lunking around in the power armor, who fails every one of his, trying to talk to people, but can just punch stuff. He just dumb lucks his way into things, which is great. So every time I go back, and we've been rewatching parts of it, there are references everywhere. Like so many things are game accurate. Tons of sound effects, music, interfaces, all that stuff. I'm just like so happy to see all of it. So give it a go. It's really, really well done. And let's just leave out, I've already seen the arguments from people talking about how much they love it, and people have taken that as an Xbox versus PlayStation argument. And I'm like,
oh, come on.
Can y'all calm down?
Last of Us 1 was better.
That came up as part of it, yes.
Oh, they're not bringing up Halo, I'm sure.
The Mario movie was the best. Shut up, bye.
It does make me go back and look at Halo going like, well, I was enjoying this, but now I'm like, you could have done better.
I will hate the Halo series forever because the thumbnail is him without his helmet on, just staring at shit.
I don't mind his helmet coming off for some of it, but yeah, it'd be kind of weird having that be the thumbnail.
It's just like, that's what you're going to see if they release it on DVD. It's just like, hey, look, it's without his helmet. And I'm like,
yeah.
No,
and I've had the argument, people like, he doesn't do it in the game. And I was like, yeah, he does. They talk about it. They get right to the point where they're going to show it and they, move the camera. So it's not like you're not seeing that it happens. They just didn't show it because they didn't want to make the model in the game because it'd have to change. But this time it's an actual person. They picked the actor and they went with it. And it's supposed to be like a different timeline. Like, whatever, calm down. It's not that bad. The Last of Us changed a lot of stuff too for how it runs, but it's also really good. Just enjoy your damn shows. All right, so let's jump into that. Complaining about movies, and let's start talking about and complaining about games. So, speaking of Fallout, Fallout 4 is getting a next-gen update coming on April 25th, which, if you already played Fallout 4 on the Series X or S, it had like an enhanced frame rate and some of the other stuff, but this is now... Originally, it was planned to be 2022, and they kind of got pushed back. I don't know if either because of technical issues or they just wanted to release it coincidentally with this show, which not a bad idea. Series X and S and PlayStation 5 are getting native applications, performance and quality modes. So you can kind of choose how you want it to run, 4K 60 FPS option, bug fixes and stability, normal stuff. Xbox One and PS4 are still getting some bug fixes and stability, so they're not done patching that, which is good. So people playing it on that still get something. PC gets the addition of all that, plus widescreen and ultra widescreen support. Update to Quest for the Fallout 4 mod creation tools are being added in or updated. It's coming to the Epic Game Store, so it's another place you can buy it. Which I looked today, Fallout 4 is like $5 people on Steam. Just go watch the show and you're going to want to get the game. This is the smartest they've done with that.
That happened with Cyberpunk.
Yeah. And what Steve will like is that this is now going to be Steam Deck certified. So it's designed to run on your Steam Deck. So you can pick it up for $5 and just go to town. I know you like using your Steam Deck for PC games. Nothing wrong with that.
I do?
Well, I don't know. Do you have a gaming PC or do you just play on Steam Deck? Because I only remember you playing on Steam Deck.
I like playing my other games on Steam Deck, and I like playing my multiplayer games on Steam Deck.
Oh, okay.
Like Lethal Company, and hopefully eventually we can play the that new one, that content game.
Yeah, we need to get back into both of those.
Christian should do that one too, because that one we just make viral videos of ourselves dying or doing stupid stuff.
It does sound pretty funny.
Oh, Lord.
All versions of the games are getting the Enclave Remnants content with a new story section being added in called Echoes of the Past. Pre-war enemies from Fallout 1 and 2 that are being brought into 4. And they're also adding in Enclave weapons, armors, and colors for the mod creations. So that'll be a nice one. Like I've been getting back into Fallout 4 because I was like, oh yeah, I have it on PC. I have a new computer. I'll run it on here. I've already done all my achievements. I don't care. So I'm just like putting in cheats and just running through and like the most powerful power armor, just launching off mini nukes and
that works.
Just slapping around Deathclaws for fun. I just want to explore and just mess with it without having to worry. Mm-hmm. I miss the days of
worry is how big is this upgrade?
I don't know. I mean, it's going to be some story content. I don't think it's going to be massive. Probably just like a few storylines, but it's free. So that's at least something they could charge for.
100 gigs.
Yeah. God. I did see something else, kind of a side note, like Forza Motorsports was getting an update that makes the game run better, adds content, but it's making it 25 gigs smaller. Like, cool. I guess they took out a bunch of extra stuff. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's like a whole other game you could install when that's gone.
Next time you go in, there's going to be an entire country missing.
What happened to Nuremberg?
Exactly. So you take the I-65 to...
Oh God! Everything is like speed with the bridge is out. Just jump the bus. Oh God! All right, moving on. So the Wii U and the 3DS online services have come to an end. Pour one out for a true one. They are gone. But immediately after Nintendo officially killed it, Pretendo came out and revealed, at least so far as I know on the Wii U, hey, you can actually connect to their systems without having to modify your Wii U now. And they give you really good instructions on how to do it. So this weekend, I'm going to be trying that on a modded and an unmodded Wii U to see how the online works for those.
Neat.
3DS, as far as I know, needs a modded system, but I think they're working on making it where you don't have to mod one, which would be great. But at least on the Wii U, I can get like Miiverse back. I can have friends lists where I can, have my Mii show up or go places, which would be kind of cool to relive that part of it again. Mario Kart, Splatoon. I think they're working on Smash Brothers, and they've got a bunch of other games that are good to go. I think even Mario Maker is coming back on there. So I'm hopeful for that. I kind of worry because I know stuff like the Xbox 360 store is closing soon. That's not gonna really affect. I think multiplayer is still staying on, but the actual store is closing. But I'm kind of hoping, and this will be part of our discussion with the big question this week in regards to companies closing down their online. What will come of it afterwards? Do you guys have any memories of playing Wii U and 3DS online? Do you remember what a Wii U is?
Isn't that the Wii that you can play?
Yeah, it's the add-on for the Wii, of course.
Oh, okay. So it's just another controller,
right?
Okay.
It's got that Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I only bought one about 6 months ago, actually.
Oh my God!
So
really?
I could play Wind Waker HD.
Okay, that's worth it.
So there you go.
And
Metroid Prime Trilogy.
I told him the other capabilities it had, so he was like, okay.
I like the Wii U, and there's been a weird discussion about that recently. Everyone's just like, oh, it's this absolute piece of garbage and so forth. And then you have the other flip side of people saying like, oh, it's this hidden gem. And I'm like, all right, let's be realistic. It's neither of those. Like the Wii U had problems. It's a marketing nightmare.
Well, I have a small little side thing I want to mention.
Yes.
That I told Chris about before. So I was working today, and I was in my head going through all of Nintendo's systems they ever made, including all their portables. And I asked Chris a question, and I said, this could be in some people's eyes a matter of opinion, but I said in my eyes, only Nintendo's commercially successful systems had revisions. All their failures did not have revisions. Therefore, the Wii U, the Nintendo 64, the Virtual Boy, and the GameCube were all commercial failures.
We never got a second Virtual Boy. We never got a smaller Virtual Boy, which probably would have done better. They just waited until the 3D technology worked for the 3DS.
Yeah.
We never got a GameCube without a handle.
The GameCube without handle was never going to happen. Like, it depends on, I guess, what you mean by revision. Are you talking like NES to top loader level differences?
More like...
they never got a second lease on life. They never got basically a revision to just say, here it is one more time while we work on the next system. They just said no more.
Yeah, like the Game Boy to Game Boy Color, or the 3DS to 2DS.
Oh, I'll still argue Game Boy Color is a different generation. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, GameCube did have revisions on the hardware, but it was more of like removing a port and changing some of the stuff. But I get what you're talking about.
Like even Game Boy had Game Boy Pocket. So because Game Boy and Game Boy Pocket, and then Game Boy Color was its own thing. I feel that it was close enough to Game Boy that I put them together, and then Game Boy Advance was the next step.
Let me ask you this: here's a crazy idea.
Game Boy Advance had Game Boy Advance SP.
Is Game Boy to Game Boy Color going to end up kind of being a similar generational change as Wii U to Switch?
Huh?
Yeah, they have a lot of the same game library. It's kind of that weird people arguing which generation it actually belongs into, and it almost feels like they cut off the Wii U early to start the Switch ahead of time. Because technically, if you go by the actual generation of hardware released, it's in the same generation as whatever the hell the Series X and S's next system's going to be.
Because I don't see it too much like that. I just see it that they didn't want to do a revision of Wii U because it was so close to what they wanted the Switch to be that they just said, instead of making anything more streamlined, let's just skip over what we were going to do and change more and make the Switch.
It's the exact opposite of what Sega did, where they made the 32X, the Saturn, and all kinds of horrible in-between mishmash things. The closest thing, I would say, wasn't even made by Nintendo. The Panasonic Q was probably the closest thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a third-party rendition of it.
And that still had handles.
They're always going to have a handle. We're not getting rid of the handle. That is a package deal.
That was still an ugly GameCube that just happened to have the front-loading disc drive.
I like the handle. It's convenient when I move it around.
I have it sitting right over there.
Yeah, mine's in the other room. We were playing games with Jennifer with it on yesterday, so that was fun.
But yeah, no, that's why I think of it. And then I was just like,
I agree.
Like, I was just like, yeah, they had their games and stuff, but they were commercial failures. So Nintendo's like, we're not going to revise that.
Yeah, I mean they only sold like what 13 million. Like it was not a tremendous amount of systems, so they probably for a while you could just buy a Wii U fairly cheaply before they started becoming kind of rarer now because they've stopped production. But they didn't make enough to really warrant a second version or a new release of it. But I don't know, like it's not the worst system ever made. The system has really good games on it that are a lot of fun to play. Some of them even better than the Switch versions that came out later. I would argue the Wii U version of Mario Maker was better than the Switch one because
the worst system ever made is probably the Apple Pippin or something.
Right. But I'm not saying it's going to be the greatest thing ever. Yes, it's one of my favorite systems, but I also will admit that's a personal bias in regards to my family's history with it. Because that was how Jennifer got to start playing games with us, which she is now a massive gamer in her own right. But it started because she was able to use the gamepad to see it because she was mostly blind and could put her face right in the screen while we were playing Mario and join us. So yeah, it's always going to be a favorite for me. I will always defend that, but I'm not going to sit here realistically and say, well, this is one of the best things Nintendo's ever made. No, it's not, but it's also not the worst. Every system is somebody's favorite, no matter how bad you like. There's somebody out there that will champion the 3DO as their system because they grew up with it. They played it. They had a couple games they liked on it. They're probably a serial killer somewhere, but they're a happier serial killer.
We're looking at you, Chris.
Hey, look, Twisted was fun. We got Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Samurai Showdown. I don't like the way this podcast is going.
That's also where Need for Speed started, so,
you probably still have that Patank shirt, don't you?
But that's always my argument. No matter how bad a system is, somebody's going to enjoy it. That's not a bad thing, Everyone's
Sometimes
favorite has someone that hates it.
There's always some sicko out there that likes pickles. I agree.
Love pickles.
See?
Call me a sicko, that's fine. I like pickles. I'll eat them. I don't care. Oh, man. All right, let's move on to some more updated Nintendo news. So we got the April Nintendo Switch Online Games update, which is the all SNES edition, with a weird selection. It feels like we're scraping the bottom of the barrel because we're trying to get ready for the next Switch whenever we decide to announce it and start this whole process over again. Amazing Haberiki?
Hebereke.
Hebereke, thank you. I had no idea how to pronounce that. I've never heard of this game. Looks like it's a 4-player beat 'em up for the Super Nintendo.
It looks like the people from Euphoria too, like the little cute little Sunsoft guys.
We need to try this because I'm sure it's going to support online, like all of them do. So we need to at least give it a round to see what happens. This one I love, Super R-Type, which I loved playing it on the Super Nintendo, but it kills me that their own trailer shows the game slowing down so badly. Like they just included it in the trailer. Like, yeah, no, this is a feature. It's not even a bug. We're not going to fix the, what happened to make that work. And then lastly, Wrecking Crew 98, which I have also never played.
I tried it. It's basically a puzzle game. It's a stacking puzzle game mixed with Wrecking Crew. I stink at it, but it was, it was clever. The one thing I dislike about us getting these games is that no one is bothering to translate them, or at the very least, make instructions, because you press X and you get the detail button. It gives you a quick synopsis. So why not give us the instructions? I'd love to learn how to play Wrecking Crew 98. But Wrecking Crew 98 doesn't want me to play Wrecking Crew 98. And I'm stuck.
I know they had like a QR code you could get instructions for some of these. Do they still have that? Is that at least in English for these?
That I haven't tried. Yeah, I may go back and give that a try then.
Oh, Lord. Steven, go ahead.
And if you want to twist the knife, over in Japan, they got 2 more games as well. Of course, they got Super Nintendo Battletoads.
Well, we got Battle Maniacs.
Yeah, we got that last time.
I'm saying, well, they got this now, but they also got the Marvelous game, the first game directed by Onoma. So they got an RPG, which just hurts. So they got that nice game that they can now say is available on modern consoles. Just not for us.
I kind of get why they don't translate the RPGs, because that is a lot of work. But on the flip side, it would be kind of nice if they would just let us let someone translate the damn thing.
So, yeah. It says they were going to release it here, but that because of the poor sales of Earthbound, they never wanted to localize this one.
Boy,
I bet they regret that now.
Yes, that's why we never got of Earthbound, and nobody likes Wind Waker because Twilight Princess is for adults. Hindsight is 20/20, folks.
Yes, another throwback to our discussion last week. I'm sure that was a popular part of it. I still think Wind Waker is a better game than Twilight Princess. I'll stand on that hill. Yeah. What about you, Steven? What's your thoughts on that controversy?
Wind Waker can drown on the bottom of the lake.
Yeah, it's got water.
Give me Twilight Princess, or better yet, give me Ocarina of Time for life.
Hey, to each their own.
Yeah.
Majora's Mask and Wind Waker can get thrown into the Majora's Mask's moon sun and die. I hate those 2 games so much.
They're 2 of my favorites.
Why do you think there's a Wind Waker mod that takes away the water?
People are curious. There's a whole TV show about people taking away the water. What do you expect? People want their entertainment.
I was just like, thankfully there's a mod that takes away the worst part of Wind Waker so you can enjoy the game.
Don't worry, people. There's a mod where you can remove Steven from the show just by clipping out.
It's called Extra Quarters.
Hey, Steve, watch Extra Quarters.
You like bad Zelda games? Play Majora's Mask, Zelda 2, or Wind Waker.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, wow. Okay, moving on. All right, so we all know I am a massive Star Trek nerd.
What?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. Shocking. I love the series, love watching the movies, even the animated ones. And we got kind of a good news, bad news situation this week. So Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is the series that takes place before the original series, with Kirk and them. This is Captain Pike on the earlier 5-year mission. He's technically still the second captain of the Enterprise, because April was the captain before him. That has been greenlit for season 4. So we're getting a new season of that, which is great. Awesome show. I love it. But sadly, one of my favorite Star Trek shows in a long time, Star Trek Lower Decks, has been announced that it will be ending after the 5th season airs later this year, and they will not be renewed for a new one. That sucks because that show is great. People are already trying to get it moved over to like Netflix, like what happened with Star Trek Prodigy, where its 2nd season is going to be airing here fairly soon. Have you guys ever watched Lower Decks or Strange New Worlds?
I'm not as big a Trek fan, but I've heard a lot of good things about Lower Decks.
Lower Decks is great. That's one that would be kind of fun to dig into for how they translate the live action stuff into its animated versions, like how they, I'm trying to think of the actual term, basically just kind of cartoonify or, just translate it over, I guess. So, yeah. And they dig into all the stuff that people don't want to talk about, all kinds of little old jokes, things that got left behind. You got people getting stabbed, thrown around. It's a cartoon. They can do whatever they want.
That's true.
So I love that. And they did actually have 2 of the characters show up in real life on an episode of Strange New Worlds because of time travel in a portal. So they had the actual actors who play Boimler and Mariner show up as themselves on Strange New Worlds running around. So I'm hoping there'll be more of that. But that's sad. I love those shows. I'm hoping for more. Because this Star Trek Discovery is also airing its final season right now too, which has picked up with an interesting storyline that's actually throwing back to an old Star Trek Next Generation story. So I'm kind of glad to see that get brought back up. So if you like Star Trek, check it out. They're good shows. You guys are just kind of shaking your head. Yeah, no, let him talk. He's just going into Star Trek. There you go. You did the hand thing. All right. So this story I wanted to talk about because this whole situation, I thought it was a joke at first, the way it was worded, until I had to read it over like twice. So developer Possibility State, founded by State of Decay creator Jeff Strain, has decided to close down without ever shipping a single game, all because a Kotaku reporter was asking questions about the game. Yeah. So Strain sent a long email out, which I only pulled some stuff from it, but Strain stated he found questions for an upcoming Kotaku article about Pretendo Media, which is their publisher, and their closure of Crop Circle Games that they had done recently. In this email, Strain stated, much of it was expected, but I was also stunned to see non-public information about Project Vonnegut, disclosure of our publishing partner with details of our business and financial relationship, and details of internal P&L discussions and confidential all-company meetings. Mr. Gash specifically credits current employees as the source of the information. Now, Gash is the reporter at Kotaku that was talking about this. He's writing the article. He's wanting to talk to him about it. He has sources where, he's saying are employees there. So, of course, Strain's reaction to hearing about this, he continued, leaks of this nature are typically malicious and done by outside hacking. So to see internal team members under a confidentiality agreement engaged in this was shocking. Given the company's own strict confidentiality and notification obligations, I immediately got on a plane for in-person meetings with our publishing partner to discuss the impact on the project. During that discussion, our partner expressed low confidence that they would be willing to invest the additional resources needed to complete the game, so we mutually agreed to cancel Vonnegut. And then when he returned back, he then also decided because Vonnegut got canceled, he would just shut the entire company down. Go ahead, Steven.
I'll be first to say, I'm glad to see Phil Fish is working in gaming again.
Oh, God, I remember that fit. That was great. I'm not releasing this game. Okay, weird.
That's such a strange sequence of events. It just makes me think that the whole story hasn't been told.
I agree. It feels like there had to have been other stuff going on, and he's just using this as an excuse to just close everything down and walk away.
Could be.
Yeah, because okay, so the Kotaku guy writing this story about it. He's getting information. It's not like it was hacked or stolen. It came from a source in the company. That's what reporters do. And he was talking to him about these questions, and just to then turn around and have a fit and just shut everything down seems really oddly reactionary, almost like throwing a fit, taking my toys and going home. It just happens to be those toys are the jobs and livelihood of a bunch of people.
What surprises me is how the Kotaku reporter so easily said that it was one of their inside sources, an employee. Something tells me that information alone seemed to make him paranoid, and he probably wondered, well, what else do they know? It's a very strange situation.
Yeah, it reminds me of the guy who says he owns the oof sound effect, who was just like, you took all this private information, and the guy's like, it's on your website.
Yeah.
Let's not get started on that. That's a whole other thing.
It's the same thing, though, where he's like, I didn't go anywhere that was private. I looked on public information.
Yeah, you sent me this in an email.
And
what
the
hell,
guy's like,
man?
no, you didn't. You broke all this confidentiality. Like, no.
I mean, because even if, all right, so I don't know of any game developer that would just fold like that. Like, okay, one person talked about some of our stuff. I don't even know how much information about this game they had. They found out about who the publisher is, but finding out early who a publisher is, I've never heard of killing a game. Like if we didn't even know who published, like we knew Nintendo published a game, but we didn't know who developed it, vice versa. And that didn't just like end the game if someone found out early, like, oh, we found out who did Princess Peach, and Nintendo's like, nope, cancel it. We're not doing this. Like, can't have it out there. We're done.
Grezzo made Ocarina of Time for 3DS. Nope, sorry.
Cancel it.
Maybe they just didn't get as much done as they said they would. I mean, honestly, before this, how much have we heard about Project Monaghan?
None.
All right, then.
About as much as we heard about Will Smith's game.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that was a whole thing.
I didn't know about that one.
I think you were gone that week. Like, Will Smith had a game that got released and did terrible, and that everyone was like, we're finding out about it like a year later that it even came out.
Look it up online. I think Donkey played it, I think. So you can find him playing it.
Wow,
he doesn't even voice his own character.
Is it After Earth the game?
No, that would be giving it too much credit.
It's like it's a foreign mobile game. So who knows?
Wow, finally something I want to play less than El Shaddai. All right.
Oh, wow. You're just beating up Jeremy today.
Damn. I did an interview with one of the guys that made that. That's like an actual interview that I did.
I'm kidding.
I've already ordered the new copy. It's
very artistic, but it's not my kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a weird game. Very much a weird game. I just did not expect that out of nowhere.
No, I'm into the other side. I'm Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah, that came about as left field as this guy's, or all of his employees' work stuff. Just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His company's in a state of decay now.
Ooh. Yeah, possibility state is not...
Impossibility of employment.
Impossibility state. Yeah, I like that. All right. So let's go into our last bit of news for today. So Ubisoft had already shut down the servers for the online-only The Crew on April 1st of this year. But recently they've started also removing the purchase of the game from people's accounts. Just going in, removing the license, and not allowing them to download or have any part of it, even if it was already installed. And before people start about it, yes, I understand this is an online-only game, but the reason this is a problem that they can't install it, A, they purchased it, so they should have owned it. But B, there were people that were working and they were almost assuming they'd be able to make their own servers locally to run this game on smaller groups themselves, which some online games have done.
Yeah, and they thrive that way.
Yeah, so as long as they could have the game loaded, even if this was just for the people that managed to buy it at the time before it stopped, they could make a small community and work around that. And this ties back in, like I was saying, with the Wii U. the entire online service is gone, but now people are making a service that's going to fit in a little bit more globally because it's a whole console, but they're going game by game to try and revive that in some way. It's not going to be perfect, but it's still usable. People can use those purchases and still do something with it. This is Ubisoft saying, no, we're not even going to allow that. We've shut this down. Give it back. It's not yours anymore. And they apparently were giving refunds to people that had bought it within a certain amount of time, but the game is so old, most of those people never counted for it. So I kind of wanted your thoughts on that one, because it basically just killed the entire project. The people working on it's like, well, there's no point in even doing it. We don't even have the game anymore unless they can find people that had downloaded enough of the information and had it backed up somewhere. Basically, the only way this game's going to survive is if pirates can revive the code and make the server. So, Steven, you got any thoughts on this one?
It's one of those things that I think I've mentioned it a few episodes back, and it's not something people like to hear, but it's part of how the industry is evolving, whether people like it or not. And it's with the price of servers or the price of maintenance for a lot of these games and how expensive they are. Yeah, you could leave some of these things up. Yeah, some of these servers can be cheap or expensive depending on how these companies like to run it. But game's 10 years old and has 2 other games, Crew 2 and Motorfest. So at this point, because the game itself has always been internet required, it's just, bye. Like it's kind of like I can't play Mercenaries 2 with my friends anymore, online, because it's gone. There's gonna be games you just can't play with your friends anymore online. And I never expected that game to ever have like any single player or any kind of content. Back then, 10 years ago, even with Chase, we got what we got out of that game. So I've been telling people from the get-go that every time that there's digital content, you don't own anything. And even when it says internet required, I'm just like, you kind of still don't own it, because you're downloading the license off the disc, but
right.
So it's a little odd. But that's what happens with multiplayer games. That's what happened with Overwatch 1. They just said Overwatch 1 is now a coaster because Overwatch 1 ceases to exist. It's a memory, it's a thought. So, it's nice to try to preserve it, but it's just something you can just remember now. It's just not there.
Gotcha.
You're just gonna have sequels. That's it.
Chris, any thoughts on this?
I think as long as the sequel does what the original did and possibly better, it's not necessarily bad to lose. But again, it would be nice to have something for posterity, especially if people purchased things. The whole Overwatch coaster thing is just a real shame, especially since there are still stores that stock those coasters and say they're games.
Yep.
Like, I would hope at least like your money would transfer over, and your achievements are not achievements, like your
like all your purchases, like all those skins you bought.
I don't know about your cars and such, but I would at least hope most of your accomplishments would go over of how much you spent and stuff, because that happens with most games. So,
well, let's go ahead and we can use this opportunity to jump into the big question, because it ties directly into this talk. So let's move over to that part. So in regards with the rise of more and more games with single player components failing to work once servers are closed down, which is the case with The Crew, it had a single player mode, but even that is now gone because it required that online connection. Should it be a requirement that at least those single player parts should be offered as a serverless patch for those that purchase the game? Not saying they have to keep the servers going, that they have to enable multiplayer and stuff like that, but if there is a single player part of it, should they be required to give you some kind of update to make that work after the fact in some closed off ability for people that purchased your game? And this has happened before with certain games. Steve, we'll jump back to you on that one because I know you had your thoughts earlier about that. But in this regard, what would be your thoughts on it?
Again, if it's on the box that they're telling you it's internet required, then I don't think that they should be required to offer it at all. But if it's not on the box, then I think it's something where you would have that as kind of be able to lodge that complaint that should be offered, because in no way when you purchased it was it said that, even in that long thing you agree to where you have to scroll through and accept, does it say that we have the option to just turn this off and there's nothing you can do about it? But obviously, if they say on the boxes there's internet required, that means when the server's down, the server's down.
The problem with that, though, is so many of these games will say internet required just because they offer multiplayer. They don't always clarify that, oh, we're going to require online for the single player. And like Overwatch, I get that was a multiplayer only game. You could only play that with other people online. There was no other component to it. But the crew had a single player. Like you could play by yourself, go through the story, and play it. That I kind of feel should still be maintained by some means, because other titles, like I remember Battleborn, when that went down, I got it long enough to be able to record the opening for the moving forward stuff I was doing, because you can't even watch that video now because the servers are down so much. And it had a single player component. It was attached to online, but it was supposed to be more of like an Overwatch style shooter, so it sucked, but I get it. But I don't like the fact that they're tying single player to that online requirement so that anytime they can shut it down and make you move over to it. You imagine, like, I know like the Madden games, they turn the online off for multiplayer, but imagine if that turned off the actual football game too. Like how many people would be trying to play those? They just shut it down each season and you have to go buy a new one because your disc is basically just a coaster, like you said.
Well, some of those, they do that because the game is supposed to check to make sure all the players' things are up to date. And if it can't, it doesn't go.
Well, they have the license for that game. You're supposed to still have it. That's why you can go back and play the older ones.
But those, they keep that going because it's all it is checking a database, and it's not checking to a server to play online. It's just saying, do you have whoever's on this team right now and stuff like that, which is silly because you don't necessarily want that. Sometimes you want the players from back in 2018. You don't want the players who are in this year because maybe somebody passed away, which is a whole new problem that I think, and it's one thing that I think could make its own episode. Is it's one thing when a player passes away and they remove them out of like respect, or they keep them in out of memoriam. And then there's another thing where, like, if a player did something really bad and they remove them as well. So it's just like, what do they have here in terms of like ground rules of removing players here, that you're like, you're taking away like why I bought the game because you had that player in mind.
I think I agree. It's a kind of a different topic in regards to that, because that's forced or not updates.
So like, having things where things are tied to just, internet updates and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, this is what's being changed now, or this is no longer being supported now, type stuff like this. It's rough because this big question ties into the biggest complaint going on right now with Star Wars Outlaws. Is there's a lot of people mad at Ubisoft, which sorry, the crew as well, but there's a lot of people mad at Star Wars Outlaws and Ubisoft right now because they're saying, you're giving us a single player open world game, but you're trying to charge us upwards of $120, and you're trying to give us a season pass and 3 days early access for a single player game.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And so you're locking access for an open world game. So if I decide not to buy this season pass and play this open world game, you're basically like locking out areas for me to play. So I cannot go to these certain areas. and it's not like, it's a multiplayer or anything like that.
Right.
You're basically saying you can't go there, and they said that's a ridiculous price to pay to then incentivize all this stuff with all these like different packs. And like, Ubisoft, we're used to your physical editions doing this, but to do a digital version of all this, we're going to wait for a sale because that's ridiculous that you would try to do this to us. And it's just like, imagine that they said, imagine like, one day you're going to shut down the servers for this game, and somebody buys this single player game that's a story.
Yep.
And because you shut down the servers or something like that, and they can no longer get Jabba's palace because
it's not even just that. It's actually worse. They'll go to install it, and it will not install without that internet check-in. That game will be just as useful as Overwatch 1, which is why until that is removed or they back it off, I will not buy that game. I was all in on getting it until I heard it requires you to check in order to install it, and I was like, that's not going to work.
So I was like, that, because I was like, that is a big no, because that is making it that like this big question says, that once the servers go down, that is a brick. That is something where it would make no sense. The single player would be useless because now stuff is locked away.
That's why I was. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Because as Christian would know, luckily you can still buy it right now. But if the 360 store, if a lot of this stuff wasn't moved over, think how bare bones and messed up Azura's Wrath would be if you could not buy all the DLC for that.
Yeah.
It is a highly unfinished game, and it is single player only.
Mm-hmm.
And think of what happens to Tony Hawk 5 if you can't update it, because when you update it, you get the rest of the game because the game wasn't finished.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like, and there's a question from my friends when they're like, why do you keep buying the Switch versions over the PlayStation and Xbox versions? And I was just like, that's because 9.5 out of 10 times, most of the game, if not all the game, is on the cart. And usually what's updating is not a big deal because I'm not installing 100 gigs of the game. I can still be in my car or on a plane, and I can play the whole game and not worry that something's missing. I do have to worry that as soon as I put my disc in my system that I can't play the game.
You might have to wait for a 24-hour long update.
Oh, God. Some of those get ridiculous. But like with the Star Wars one, if that comes out to be the fact of like you have to have the internet to install it and to run that, I think Ubisoft should be required legally that when they end service for that server, they decide they're going to shut it off and kill that game off. They need to patch that game or put the update out there, because the update servers are still available at least, to allow it to be playable without that check-in, to allow it to be installable without that check-in. Because if you purchase that game, the expectation of a single player should still be there. It's not an online multiplayer part of it. I get it if that shuts down. That's not an argument either way. Even though some fans can make their own servers or they can have direct connections, it could still be viable in some ways. So that's just, I don't like the way they're moving in regards to that. And I agree, getting Switch games for a lot of these because they are on there. And then even after the fact, if they shut the servers down, there's the whole weird function of the Switch where you can get updates from other people. So if somebody has it, you can still get that update. It may not be the installation type update. I have to see if that would work for like Borderlands or something like that. But it, at least you can get some kind of update to bring it over without that server being required. Because we had to use it during the hurricane to update a Switch we had just gotten so we could actually play stuff together. So there's ways to do it outside of it. And I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be something like what the EU would push for, because they're very much about, the rights on purchasing these things. I think more than even the US is. Like, more arguments have come from the EU in that. And yeah, so we shall see. All right. Well, I think that about wraps up this episode of the show. And hey, look at that. We kept it to an hour. If you want to talk to us online, you can find us on Twitter at Zenspath Podcast. If you are watching the show over at youtube.com/ZenspathCom, but you want to listen to us, you can find us anywhere you get your podcast, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and elsewhere. If you're listening to it, leave us a review. We love to see those. Leave us 5 stars, things like that. That helps. Share it with your friends and family. For the video part, leave us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment. We want to talk to you about that as well. And share the video with your friends. We're doing more of the YouTube shorts as well. But if you want to find out where to talk to us individually, you can find our information over at zenspath.com, where we have a contact us page, where you can find it below the episode in the notes with all of our information, or in the notes of the file you downloaded for the audio version. All right, I've been your host, Jeremy Powers, joined by Stephen and Chris this week, episode 125, and we're out. Peace.
Rachel DLC next week.
I've been, and I shall always be, your podcast.
Update required to continue listening in single player.